Welcome to the Mayhem Performance Coaching Podcast. We have no idea what episode we're on, but we're here. I'm Jake Nomchef with
Jake Foster.
and
it's a little different.
Brannen Dorman.
Yeah,
I like it.
There we go. Yeah. We're here today.
It's like a news crew in the morning news,
pretty much.
Or something. Yeah.
You gotta say it in a really nice, smooth, like buttery voice. You have a nice voice.
I don't know if I have a buttery
No, you
voice,
do. You
but,
do.
It's a preacher's voice.
So we're here today, and we're going to introduce Brannen to, I guess, the Mayhem Performance Coaching community, right? Like, I guess will be your first kind of, So Brannen obviously is pretty well known in the space. Some of you might know him from just some previous stops he's had, but we're just here to kind of hear about his stories and just talk about some things that we have coming down the pipe with Mayhem Performance Coaching. So you got anything else you want to add to that?
No, that was pretty good. No, I was just thinking it was funny because the last podcast we did with Dom, we'd said we're finally done with everybody's stories because that's all the podcasts have been up to this point. And then we got one more story to tell.
Oh, more.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So that's what came to mind. But it's Brannen again. We were joking before we started that we probably should do a little more prep for this, but I think sometimes I'm gonna make it sound better. Is that it actually does flow from really genuine curiosity with people where it's almost nice that you don't plan it. The questions kind of flow. So we'll just talk to Brannen a little bit about his story, how he came, more specifically, like how he got to Mayhem or how you got to Mayhem. And then we'll chat a little bit about a little project we've been working on. Not a little project, a very massive project. We'll get into that in a minute. So
We will preface this by saying that we have all covenanted that the next person that we hire will be a female because we have so many males on our coaching staff now. So
we'll
it's
try.
probably the last. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll try. No
That's the problem.
promises though. Actually,
We're taking
so
female
we'll see.
applicants.
It's Foster's fault.
It is Foster's fault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no prejudice here. It's just what's happened. We'll call it God's sovereignty, and then it shuts every mouth.
Yeah.
Dude, question. So, give us a quick rundown for the people who are watching this that don't know who you are, like just your history in the sport, quick bio.
Yeah.
Just jump into
for
it.
sure. Well, I started in the sport in 2012, so it's been almost 13 years. I guess like March of 2025 would be 13 years. Just like everyone else, like back in the good old days, you like went into a CrossFit gym. I did Fran. That was my first workout. And I just got done playing college football. So I thought I was in good shape. Like I was strong and what I thought was fit. And then I remember doing it, and like the first 21 thrusters were just like a nightmare. And I didn't know how to kip or butterfly pull-ups. So I did 21 strict pull-ups. By like 15, I was blown up. Anyhow, at the end of the workout, I was like, man, that was really hard, but that was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do this again. So I talked to the guy and was like, hey, when you guys open, like, what's your schedule like? Went back a couple times and just like absolutely fell in love with it. And at the time, I was a strength and conditioning coach. I was just out of college, went to Boca Raton, Florida, was a strength and conditioning coach at a small private Christian school down there, and just got connected with a couple people in the CrossFit space. That led from one thing to the next to opening my own gym. And through that process, I actually ended up coming up to Atlanta, Georgia, and worked with Training Think Tank for the last like 10 and a half years. And then that relationship ended a couple months ago, trying to, I think God was leading me in a different direction. And through that, like got connected with you, which maybe we can kind of tell that story. It's kind of crazy, just, and all the similarities that we have and some other stuff that's gone on along the way. But
That is true. Y'all are super similar.
and
Like,
some
I don't
other
know-
connections
I
that I
don't.
found
Yeah,
out last
I bet.
night.
I don't know how. I'm just
we gotta-
putting that together now.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, yeah, they have a lot in common.
We've got to tell that story. So it's just been, God's been, you talked about sovereign. Like, I think to be like really open with everyone in the audience, like December was a really tough month for me.
Mm-hmm.
I was with the same company for 10 years and absolutely loved the coaches there. I'm still best friends with many of them. But there were some things that went on that I ended up leaving, and it was kind of like, okay, God, like what's next? And, you text me like a week after that. Like I was praying that down on my knees, just saying like, where do you want me and where am I supposed to be at this moment right now in time? And you text me and a couple other people that are in the Mayhem community were like, hey, you should look into it. And it's just kind of crazy. Like it was like one person after the next. And so then we got on a phone call and one thing led to the next. And now I'm sitting in this chair.
Yeah, it's wild. Happens fast.
Where did you go to college at again? Where did you play football at?
Yeah, Wheaton College.
Wheaton. Oh,
The
I didn't know.
rival.
I didn't know that was your rival.
No, I mean we didn't play
Oh,
each
okay.
other.
Like
It was
a
like
Christian school
Right.
It
rival.
was, yeah. We didn't even play. So I went to Taylor University, Wheaton. We were like, they called it like academic rivals, essentially. Nobody talked about it, but it was like either if you're going to like a Christian college in the Midwest,
well, you knew it and I knew it, right? Like if you go to the schools,
you
you're
know
like,
who,
yeah,
right?
hey, like we're a little smarter than they are.
Yeah.
I did not know that. I just I've known of Wheaton, but I did not know that they had a football program.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was that big of a college or university.
So the connection is I actually went to Wheaton to visit. I like got accepted there. I considered going, and I sat down with the coach who coached Brannen, and hey, he'll never see this. I wasn't a big fan,
right?
And so, so I toured the school and I like loved the school and everything was going really well. And I'm like, I'm going to Wheaton. Like, this is awesome. And then I sat in the coach's office. I'll never forget. He looked at me, and there's more context there, but he was like, you're not playing tight end for me unless you're 245, 250. And I was just sitting there at like, 205 pounds or something.
Well, real quick, when he told me this story, we got on the phone, and I don't know, you maybe asked me where I went to school or something like that. And so he tells me this story, and like as he's telling, I could have filled the words in for him. I knew that it's Coach Swider. He's a great man and like an awesome coach, but he would do that to any recruit. Like he'd be like, "Oh yeah, you can't play for me."
Which is like, I was like, "Do you want me to be here?" Or like it was like,
like sell me on.
Wait,
this.
are you offering me a scholarship? Or
it was and then in D3 you can't even offer a scholarship, so it's like you got to kind of convince the kids.
Yeah, you got to sell.
You got to sell at D3
almost
more than other places because you don't have money to offer.
Yeah.
And he wasn't selling me. So I was like, I don't think he really wants me here.
Yeah.
So
not to completely derail this conversation. Have you seen the stuff about the tweet that Wheaton College made recently?
Man, I actually almost sent something to you, but I didn't know if you knew I went to Wheaton or not.
No, I knew. Yeah. And have you seen it?
No,
you haven't seen it. I could get it wrong, so you correct me, and we can talk about non-politically correct because no one's going to watch this. We're going to be fine. But they put out a tweet congratulating an alumnus of Wheaton because I believe he was on staff for Trump, right?
Yeah, he's the director of management and budget.
Right. So he got brought onto Trump's staff in that role, and they were congratulating him just like you would any alumnus, right? And they got so much backlash from it that they pulled down the tweet and then they issued an apology.
Wow. Well, Taylor kind of went the same route. We had Mike Pence come speak at a graduation, I think like 2 years after I graduated, and it like almost shut the whole school down.
My gosh.
It was insane. There was a ton of pushback, controversy, student newspaper, people on Facebook. I mean, everybody was going at each other. So
I just don't get it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We can get back on topic.
Wild story.
People can studied same major.
Yep.
So political science.
Political science. We talked about that. I was like, man, this is meant to be. It's almost like a first date.
Yeah.
Like, wait, you like that too?
And then I found out he's a Democrat. No, I'm just kidding. No, can't have this.
Read some of the same books, like there was those connections. And then it was funny. This is jumping ahead, but last night got back to Jake's house late, and we were sitting on the couch, and Connor was like, we were watching, what's the late night show that was on? I don't ever watch that. It was just on the TV.
It was like,
but
I don't know, Jimmy Fallon or something was just on. Yeah.
And he said, my best friend, Michael Davila's sister, was on that show. And I heard him, but I wasn't like, there's a lot of Michael Davilas out there. Come to find out, my first job, that strength and conditioning coach job, I taught there as well, social studies and Bible. And he was one of my students.
That's wild.
So it's Connor's best friend that was one of my students. So these connections just like definitely ordained.
Hold up. How many people did you have staying at your house last night?
There's 4. It wasn't only 4.
Okay.
Right? 4? Yeah, there's 4 of them.
Because Mike texted me and he was like, I'm just going to come
Mike
to
was gonna
hotel.
come.
He was like, there's a lot of people staying at Foster's.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, it was 4. It wasn't too bad.
Okay. No, that's
We're
not
settled.
that bad. I thought it was more than that. Yeah.
Good time.
Yeah, it's fun. Get everybody. I mean, that's the beauty of like this time, like being at the camp is just getting us all together. I mean, because we're a bunch of remote coaches, right? We don't all live in Cookeville. So that's, I mean, it's 3 times a year that we get everybody, 3 times maybe the games or something like that, but we're still not all under the same roof.
Yeah.
I guess that's true. It feels like more of me for some reason. I don't know why, but it is like 3 times.
It's too bad we're so busy with the camp. It would be nice if we had like some time to coach's dinner or something like that, but
just
time is tight. Well, so go back. So, yes. So the reason I reached out was credit to Mike and Namchef actually, like who text me and they were like, you need to reach out to this guy like ASAP. Like you text me like the day, I think your podcast came out with Coffee Pods and Wads or something like that. And they were both like, reach out. On the podcast you talked about, well, I think we should get into it a little bit. Like, you'd left TTT, I'll let you explain it, but you're kind of unsure of what's going on next. Like, kind of walk us through that journey of what you decided to do with Redemption Athlete, and then what brought you here, or why you felt like, man, like the door's opening at Mayhem, like we opened the door for you. what made you go, you know what, I'm going to walk through that door versus continuing to just do your own thing?
Yeah. Well, I think first, when everything happened with Training Think Tank, Jordan, my wife, and I sat down and we had a long conversation about, hey, do I want to continue in this space or do I want to do something else? Because there were viable options that were outside of it.
For a poli-sci major?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Only through connections that I have. You're so, that's so
fitness
true.
coach?
Yeah. It's so funny.
But that was always a thing. Like, what are you going to do with a poli-sci degree? Yeah.
I don't know why I did that, to be completely honest with you. I love politics. It was kind of silly, though.
Yeah. I was just like, I'm going to pursue my passion. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. No, I did the same thing.
Now here I am in fitness. So that made sense.
Jumping around. But yeah, through connections, there were these other opportunities on the table. And so we had a long conversation about it. But her question to me is like, well, what are you passionate about? Like, what do you want to continue to do? And the thing I kept coming back to is, well, I still want to be able to make an impact on people's lives and to glorify God in doing that. And fitness is such a beautiful way to do that because we're all connected with people that are all over the world and we get to help them with their fitness. But it's at the intersection of, especially with a place like Mayhem, intersection of fitness and faith, which I didn't have over the last 10 years. I still kind of try to just weave that into all that I did. But it's a beautiful thing to be able to say it out loud, like to sit here and behind a mic and be able to just say this is what I want to do. I want to be able to glorify God in all that I do. So when that door opened, I think that was such an obvious step of, I told my wife I wanted to continue to pursue my passion, but I didn't know what that looked like. So that's why I was doing the redemption stuff, and I took on some more one-on-one clients that, they're all just wonderful and I'm extremely loyal to them. But when you called, it was kind of like, this is an opportunity to be able to be with a brand that believes the same things that I do, which I've never experienced before.
Yeah, to press you on that a little bit more, because I'm always curious, all the coaches that we've had come on, we were all doing our own thing before. What went into, you touch on a little bit, but to go into it more, what went into you going, I'd rather do this with a group of other people than do it on my own? Because everything you just said, intersecting faith and fitness, you could have done it on your own.
Well, and to be fair, you probably could have done it on your own more successfully. It would have been super easy for you to do it on. Not easy, but it had a high probability of being successful because you're so well known in the space from your previous background at Training Think Tank and the amount of people that you've coached in the past. So that is a viable option. Yeah. Right.
Well, where two or more are gathered, that was kind of it. That was another conversation that Jordan and I had. She was like, will you be happy doing it on your own? Or do you want to have good men and women around you to hold you accountable, to encourage you?
Woman.
We're
working on it. We're working on it.
There we go. Oh, your fault again. Throwing you under the bus. And that was that kind of stuck with me because there was still a thought, to your point of maybe I should just do this on my own. But I don't think that I would be as happy. And I also don't think that was where God was leading me. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
kind of
yeah. I mean, it echoes kind of all of us. We're the same. That would the same for all of us. Is I'd rather do it on a team. Simply put.
Yeah.
So I think every one of us have had the same answer, at least on the podcast that they've listened to or have sat in on, where it was just to be a part of something bigger than yourself. Could we do it? I mean, could I have continued to own my gym and just coach a handful of athletes and be happy with that and do it? I could, but if there's an opportunity to be a part of something much bigger than myself with people who I know are going to think about things the same way that I'm going to think about them and approach them in a way with integrity and all that, why would I not? I can't pass that up, that opportunity.
Another aspect of it too is continued learning. As being a coach, you want to continue to get better and learn new things, and having a team around you of people that are have the same mindset, not only with faith, but it's I'm always trying to get better at the profession. I think it is important to have a group, and Sean and I were talking in your garage this morning. I learned a couple things that I had no idea. So it's I can do it on my own and probably not learn much, or only have to read textbooks where I can't really interact, or I can have a group of people that will help teach me.
I was thinking about that the other day, just in the 2 years being here, and as we bring new people onto the team regularly, how much I've learned. Forget even just the science, but the methods, right? I was thinking the other day just about just stuff I've learned from Dom in particular when it comes to strategizing workouts, and how I think completely different about them because of conversations with him and hearing him coach athletes. And I mean, more growth is going to occur.
Yeah, for sure.
With us all together, no doubt about it. So You're gonna say something? It looked like you had something to say.
I have nothing.
All right.
Nothing.
No, that's actually probably a good. I mean, I know there's so much more to your story, but what we wanted to take a little bit of time talking about was, even from our perspective, what was the allure of bringing you in? Because when we first had that conversation, it was we could just be honest about it. It was like, man, you had told me I don't want to come in to just coach 50, 60 people. Like, that's not the goal. Talk a little bit more about what your thought process is behind that, and I guess what you're most passionate about doing when it comes to fitness and coaching in general.
Yeah. I think when I started in the space, it was that's exactly what I did. So I was just doing one-on-one coaching, which I absolutely love, and I'm still doing a lot of. But as I got more experience as a coach, I started to do some of the educational side. I was leading the podcast at Training Think Tank. We had our group program, which we did a lot of educational stuff inside of the program. And I kind of just fell in love with that aspect of like, man, I can teach the athletes how to be better athletes. I can teach coaches how to be better coaches. And that's what I want to do as far as making an impact. And when you can do both of those things, when you can do one-on-one coaching where I'm still helping athletes to just get better at the sport or whatever their goals may be, but then also help educate coaches so that they can make an impact. Like, it's almost like this like multiplier to making impact on people. I know I keep using that word, but like, that's important to me. So, I mean, that was what our conversation was. Like, hey, what can we do? What can we build that allows us to be able to educate coaches in a way that gives them the tools in their toolbox to be able to be better coaches?
Did that passion for teaching grow over time, or did you know you always had that? Because you said you taught high school, which is similar to both our stories too, again. But, did you like even graduating college? We joke about the poli-sci degree, but most people who get a poli-sci degree, they either teach or go to law school. Right,
yeah.
Like those are the two most common.
Yeah,
careers.
I was too stupid to go to law school, so it was definitely teaching.
Yeah, dude, I did not want to take the LSAT.
Yeah,
no.
Yeah. I really loved teaching. I only did it for a year and a half because then I moved right into the fitness world. Yeah. But that was always a desire to come back to it. So that was kind of what I meant. Like, when I started with Training Think Tank, I was just a one-on-one coach, but there was something missing. And so when we started we got the group program and an educational side and then the podcast. Those were all outlets for me to be able to help educate and teach.
Yeah.
And that kind of it lit that fire, that passion again. And that's something that I want to continue to be able to do.
I had the same experience, like getting into coaching. And to be honest, for a while, I kind of always felt bad about it. I feel like as a fitness coach, I don't know, you guys help me put language around this, but more popular to be like, I just love the relationship building and I love the coaching. I'm there for my athletes in their corner. And and I do love all that, but not as much as I love to teach. Like, just simply put, like, the more I coach, the more, and the longer I was out of the classroom, the more I was like, man, I really miss standing up in front of a bunch of 8th graders talking about the social contract theory. I miss that moment of taking complex information that, 8th graders could give a crap about and getting them excited about it, or at least I pretended like they were excited, and distilling that complex information. And I even miss the lesson planning. Like, I miss sitting down and going,
well, you like structure.
Yeah. So it's so that Judd Gunkler's laughing in the back.
Is it true? Yeah. I've known you for a month, and I get that feel.
So I guess where I'm going with that is I don't even know. It's just kind of saying some of my thoughts around it. Do you ever kind of feel that same thing too, where you're like, man, I kind of feel bad on the coaching side of things? Because does it make sense what I'm trying to say? In the coaching world, it's almost unpopular to be like
to want to do both.
Yeah, like, I love to coach, but I don't know if I'm all that as passionate about that individual coaching relationship as I am about building a team, leadership, teaching.
Well, you're certainly wired to lead and to teach.
So I think that's actually, what are you wired for? If you put them on I don't know if they have to be on a spectrum, but what fires you up the most between the two, or you're like, neither, it's both?
Yeah, it probably is somewhere in between, in that I really like working with one-on-one athletes for the relationship, but I want to make sure that I'm giving them tools for their success instead of just telling. Like, I always tell athletes, we are collaborating on your program. I am not telling you what to do. Like, that's not the kind of coach that I want to be. I want to collaborate with you. I'm going to be the guardrails. I'm going to help you get to where you want to be. But that collaboration is me giving them tools so they can continue to get better. When you were talking, this is me just jumping around, but I was thinking, I can think back to all the teachers that I had that made a huge impact on my life. You just talk about any way. And then I also can think back and don't remember teachers' names, right? Like, you only remember the ones that really made an impact on you. So that's why I think it's so powerful when you have the opportunity to be able to like give someone something that's like really cool and valuable that they can use in their life, it's like that lasts a lifetime.
Yeah. Good segue into like let's just jump in with the mentorship program. We've talked about it on social media a little bit already, but one of the big, again, allures of bringing Brannen, you in, and the initial conversation that we had where you said, hey, I'm not looking to take 50, 60, like I still want to coach, I'm really passionate about it, but I love to teach. And I'm like, I love to teach, and I've had this idea, and Namchef and I have been working on Saturdays for hours for a few weeks trying to put together. So well, I guess even to give some more context to it, because we've never talked about this yet. When I came to Mayhem, day one in conversation with Jake Locker was like, we should build out an individual coaching program. And then someday, I don't know when, I would love to build out a mentorship program. And not just a certification program, but a mentorship program specifically. And so for the first 2 years, I guess I always kept thinking, not yet, like, I don't know, like it's almost like any, career, something where people think like, okay, I've got to get to a certain point. We've got to grow Mayhem performance coaching to a certain point before we can actually launch this or do something with it. And credit to Lockard, it was really Lockard that was kind of going, just do it now. Like, do it now, do it now. He was saying that for 2 years. And then Namchef really tipping me over the edge where he was like, Namchef is pastor, teacher. Like, I know you're passionate about that too as well. It was like, what are we waiting for? I think we had a call back in like September, October. He's like, what are you waiting for, Foster?
Well, yeah,
And,
I just remember
I don't like that question.
I don't.
So, yeah.
I think one, there's just like, at least from my point of view, there's a pretty big hole in the space for mentorship. And the reason why it fires me up is because I love the relational aspect with my athletes that I have one-on-one. I really do enjoy that. But there's something about looking into someone that I'm going to be mentoring or that we're going to be walking through this course and understanding they're where I was 5-10 years ago. And like, how much could I have benefited from hearing what I'm going to tell them back then? Like, you just have so much opportunity to make an impact. Anyways, so that's why I'm really fired up about it. I do think we got on a call, and which we get on calls, and Foster sometimes just like, I sit there and I listen. Yeah, I listen. Yeah, I let Foster talk, and then at the end of it, I'm just like, you already know what you need. Just do it. Like, just go and do it. And so, yeah.
Yeah, that is true. I call Namchef to get an opinion of an opinion I already have, and I'm waiting for confirmation.
He just wants affirmation.
Yeah, that's like, what it was. Yeah,
just say
yes. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But
I get it.
But I do think that, anyways, yeah, I think there's a hole in the space for the mentorship program. And I think I'll speak to this, Jake, you already said it, but I've been with Mayhem now for a year and a few months. I think the amount of knowledge and growth that I've had as a coach in a year and a few months is more than the 8 years prior that I was out doing it on my own, like, and just kind of on an island by myself. Trying to run a gym, trying to coach people individually. And it's just, there's something really powerful, right, about working together with people who know more than you and who can bring a different perspective to the table than what you have. So,
yeah, just to give some more like what we're doing is we're building. We're in the weeds with it right now, but this spring, at some point this spring, the three of us are really, this is kind of like a project we're all spearheading together equally. It's a mentorship program that is really going to be geared towards CrossFit coaches who basically want to do what we do, whether it's on a big scale or just in their local community and their affiliate. They want to work with people in their gym or remotely who want to improve in the sport specifically. And we've always defined that broadly, right? Improving in the sport doesn't mean you're trying to go to the CrossFit Games, right? Yeah. It could be just trying to beat your score in the Open every year, local competitions you throw down in. Maybe you're trying to get to the RX level in a local comp for the first time. So if you have people in your gym, you're a coach that are passionate about that and you love coaching and teaching, we're creating this program for you. And we're working on like a beta version or a rough draft, so to speak, that will take some coaches through this spring. And then through the experience with those coaches, we'll build out kind of a more robust program later on, to be determined when we would officially drop that. But the big thing, and Brannen, I'll let you chime in on some of your thoughts because you've brought a whole new perspective to it, which has been great and refreshing and things that we hadn't been thinking about. But the one thing that I was really passionate about, like I said before, is not creating a certification program where it's just like you're going to sit, listen to courses, right. Boom, you're a certified coach from Mayhem or something like that, go on. And this comes from my teaching background, which is like, I want to mentor people, right? how would you define mentorship, by the way, Namchev? Put you on the spot.
That's tough.
It's kind of like discipleship a little bit, right?
It is,
in a sense,
but
right?
yeah, I was actually thinking about this the other day. I mean, discipleship, right, is following someone, right? Like you're following them to learn about them and like to follow their ways so that you can pick up on what they're doing and then obviously walk in those steps. And so mentorship very much is like that.
So the vision we have, and again, like don't quote me on this because things may change, but the vision we have that we're passionate about is creating a program where eventually what it will be is you'll do some coursework at like the beginning of the week, but you'll be assigned to a coach who will walk you through the coursework over the course of 8, 10, 12 weeks, whatever we've, decide that the final product is going to be. And then after that, you'll have the option of working with that coach one-on-one on a regular basis. Because again, from my experience, I know Namchev, your experience, like all of ours as coaches, as a staff, it's like we've learned the most from those, not from textbooks, not from courses we've taken, but from one-on-one conversations with coaches who've been there, done that. And then one other thing too is that it's not just going to be about program design or how to assess a client or all those sorts of things. Of course, it will be that, but we also want to make sure that coaches are walking away equipped with the knowledge to be able to build a business out of it if they choose to do that.
Right.
Like how do you do this full time if that's what you're passionate about? Share some of your thoughts on that, Brannen. Pretty broad question, but
I was just going to say, I think that's the most important part is like we're giving them all of the tools that they'll need to be a really good coach. And it starts with like, why are you coaching? Like, what's your purpose as a coach? And we'll talk about that. And then it goes into like, here's how you would build a business, some of the practical stuff that some people don't even think about that you'll need as a coach. And then also all the nitty-gritty program, the fun stuff that they're like, hey, teach me how to do energy system training or teach me how to do strength training or, local muscular endurance. Like, how do you improve that with an athlete? So they'll get all that fun stuff, or at least it's fun stuff for me because I like to learn about that, with the other side of it, like more holistic side of let's teach you how to be a better coach by finding your purpose first.
Well, that's where you've really, Brannen, done a great job with Namchev and I, because we were thinking a lot of theoretical stuff and teaching and things like that. And of course we're thinking practical, but since you've come in, you've been really big on, hey, we got to make sure that the coaches that are going through this course are going to learn how to actually do it. Like we don't just talk about like client onboarding, like show them, like give them the resources that they need.
And don't just assume that they know like some of these things that you think that they should, like, hey, if you're going to be doing this on your own, do you need to have a business license? Like just practical things, right?
Where do you get that from? Why is it something you're so, adamant about that we need to be giving like this practical advice?
Yeah. It goes back to that whole thing where I was talking earlier about like the teachers that I remember most that made the biggest impact on my life were like taking these like really complicated principles and then dumbing them down for the 5-year-old where like everyone could understand. And usually those are the people that actually know what they're talking about. Everyone has listened. If you've listened to like high level conversations, most of the time I walk away and I'm like, I have no idea what they're talking about. But a lot of it's because they don't know what they're talking about. You know what I mean? Like, and not to say that all people don't know what to talk about, but like in general, I think people just talk in circles to make themselves sound smart. And so the people that have really impacted me and taught me the most in training in the CrossFit space and fitness or in life and other areas have been the people that have just simplified it to where it's like, oh, that makes sense. I understand that. And part of that process is giving them those, I know I use this term quite a bit, but the tools, right? Like we're actually teaching them how to fish as opposed to giving them the fish, that old saying. So I think it's really important that we do that and do it well, which we will. Like we already have come up with some really good concepts to give them like hard copies of here's how you would train someone. These are the concepts that you would want to use. And I think that when you have that support, it allows you to be a better coach. The other thing too is that you're getting the information from people that have made mistakes. Yeah. Like how many times have we just like one after the next over the last 12 years of coaching on every couple of months, I'm like, oh, I need to learn from that. I need to learn from that. But we're learning from it so then we can deliver it to all the people out there.
And I think that's super important in a sport like CrossFit. If you're trying to be a coach for it right now, there's no textbook out there on like how to coach CrossFit. Like there's not. And so when you sit down with someone who has done it for a very long time and coached a ton of athletes, that's essentially your textbook. Like that's your chance for you to be able to ask questions like, hey, I've got this person and they're like hypermobile and I have no idea what to do about increasing their stability and their overhead for their snatch. Like I've just never come across this before. Okay, well, great. Here are the tools, the practical applications that you need to use. Here's the science behind it. And here's some protocols that you can try out as you go into it.
And the other thing I think is really important, this kind of answers your question too, is my request was like, hey, let's not give it depends answers.
Yes.
I understand that may be a legitimate answer, but let's at least give them tools to try. Hey, this athlete, it may depend. Let's try these 3 things.
Yep.
Give them these tools that they can actually use. I think I've gone through so many courses or sat in seminars where, again,
it's unbelievably frustrating.
Yeah, these people are like, well, it depends. And here it's like, just give me a couple options so that I can at least help my athletes and see what works for them.
It depends. Yeah. And maybe I'm being so skeptical here, cynical, is that when I hear people say it depends, most of the time I'm like, I think like charlatan or something right away. I'm like, what are you hiding from me? Or why are you giving me everything?
Nuance is the death of all performance.
Yeah.
Because you never get to an answer. Everyone says it's nuance. Like that was the thing in the political space for a long time. Well, this is nuance. It's like,
dance around it.
Is it?
Right.
Yeah.
Even if it is, let's go ahead and try some things, right? And I think that's really important.
I mean, I couldn't imagine looking at the 8th graders in my classroom being like, I don't know, guys, it depends. It's like you would never do that. So, that's great, man. Obviously, there's a whole lot more detail we could have gone into. Just real quick for those of you guys who are listening and going, man, I'd be really interested in being a part of that program.
Why don't you like real quick? I mean, you want to run down for them if they're interested in being part, but like what the program would look like? Do you want to get into any of that?
Okay. No, I can do that. Yeah. So what we're doing, so for the beta rough draft, whatever we're calling it, we don't even have an official name. We should probably do that. Mayhem Performance Coaching Mentorship Beta. That doesn't sound that great. We'll come up with that. But basically what we're doing is going to be an 8-week course, and we're going to teach it live. So Nam Chef, Brannen, and myself will kind of rotate through different topics, teaching it live. We'll do 2 90-minute blocks throughout the week. If you can't make the live sessions, we'll record it and send it out to you. And then, again, everything we were just talking about is we're not just going to talk at you for 90 minutes. We'll probably have about an hour of teaching and then some Q&A mixed in there and then practical application time where we'll also assign the coaches homework throughout the 8 weeks. And basically everything we're teaching, we're going to make you do it. We're going to make you apply it, and then we're going to
You just scared people off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, again, we're not just saying, hey, it's not a pass-fail, right? So it's really you're going to get out of it what you put into it. And we'll give you individualized feedback on that. And we're going to take up to 10 coaches and cap it there for this initial, again, beta. And we're looking at like a start time somewhere around April. We're still ironing out some of the details around it. But if you're interested in being a part of it and joining it, email me, jakefoster@mayhemnation.com. I'll send you out some more like detailed info and a breakdown of everything that we're doing. But I honestly will say that I think in some ways, I know the official product will pull in our other coaches. We'll get Sean talking, we'll get Mike talking, Dom, et cetera. But this is a unique opportunity to be a part of a rough draft, so to speak, and get a lot of individualized attention that you might not get as much later on.
For sure.
For less than half the price of what it will likely be. So, and then you're also going to be a part of something where we screw a lot of things up. So
we'll learn.
That's why you're paying less than half the price. Yeah.
But then you also get the opportunity if after, the course, you really like it and you enjoy it and you want to continue to work with one of us and like on a one-on-one basis for mentorship, that option will also be there for you as well. So as we do kind of refine things, we'll then be able to give those to you on the back end if you're doing, continuing mentorship.
And the thing with this is it's like, why are we doing this? It really simply put, I mean, it's so cliche, but it's so true. It's like, let's just be really frank. Like, none of us really need the money. None of us really have all that much time. We're all really busy. This is just something we're really excited and passionate about doing. Yep. This is something that fires me up. And I know that initial call with you was where you said, I really want to teach. And I'm like, I got the thing for you. So
for sure. That's what sold me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's why you're here.
Yeah.
Let's rock and roll. And Brannen will coach some individual clients. So that will happen too as well. So if you're interested in working with them, it's like there's such a call to action, but whatever. But seriously, apply and then put his name in the application at the bottom that you'd want to work with him, and then we can have a conversation about it. So, any parting words?
I'm excited to be here, and I'm really, really excited about the mentorship. I think it's a good first step to build like a really awesome way to educate coaches that they haven't, you talked about this a minute ago, they haven't had that opportunity. There's not much in the space that's like really doing that and walking them along. It's not just teaching at them, right? We're going to walk alongside them as they go through the process.
It's cool.
It's a wrap.
See you next time.